I estimate the first official rival will be released in June 2020. Depending on how much I would like to polish the overall experience before releasing her, it's possible she may not be released until July 2020. I believe she is released at time of recording, and I believe he also said that he wants to have at least 2 rivals done before he officially releases the game. And I would like to say, what?
No.
Are we going to be done with the game in 2045?
Okay, wait. Hi, Carina.
Hi, Zax.
Hi, Bob.
Hey, Zax. Hey, Carina.
Hey, Bob.
Okay. So.
Can we do that again, but this time don't say K?
No, I love that. Keep it.
Are we keeping all this? Okay. I'm really hoping one of these days you'll come up with something smoother than we've all said introductions. Now I will give you the topic of the video.
That's the flavor of Kind of Friends.
I feel like one day it'll just be like, hey, you guys in? Okay, here's what we're talking about today.
No introduction. We just start the conversation.
We can do that. That is possible.
Is it?
Well, until we hear from people, aka leave a comment in the description.
No, don't leave a comment in the description. Leave a comment in the comment section.
Hack into our account, go into the description, change it.
This is a nightmare.
Yeah, change it to I want a cold open.
Get a cold open.
Oh yeah, we do have it. What's it called if you don't introduce?
You want a cold open? Here's a cold open. Zax, what are we talking about today?
No, they already got the cold open. That was the first.
I don't know what a cold open is. Zax, help us.
Okay, so to you listening here, ignore this dumpster fire. If you're like me, you've probably heard the name Yanderedev thrown around a lot. But if you're still like me, you don't really know why.
Good contrast.
Now, in the Kind of Friends Discord, link in the description, I asked the question, why are people talking about Yanderedev? And pretty much everyone in the server started lighting it up with information that was very hard to navigate. So Carina and Bob have very politely agreed to come into this video and explain to me why Yanderedev is a meme or whatever.
Yeah.
Where do we begin?
Well, here, let me begin here. So Yanderedev, he's called that because he's the developer of a game called Yandere Simulator.
You also might know him by the name Alex or Eva Zephon, but for sake of ease, we'll probably just end up calling him Yanderedev.
Yeah, and a lot of what we're saying will be rehashed stuff from what we've heard online, right? Mm-hmm. So like the people who are better experts on him will not get a lot out of this video, except for our goofs and gaffs. So I hope you stay anyway. And correct us if we're wrong about stuff in the comments. But we'll be mostly explaining to Zax our understanding. Yandere Simulator was started as a project 6 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, so back in 2014.
Right. And so game development is hard. So obviously, and someone who's not a programmer might not know how long, whether 6 years is a long time to be in development. And for some games, it is a long time, and for some games, it isn't. The kinds of games where 6 years wouldn't be a long time are the games like, like huge games with huge scope, and usually those games are at least in an alpha stage, meaning all their basic functionality is in place, maybe in the first year. And that would involve having a team. It would involve having artists and developers and programmers working together to make a cohesive project that looks good and plays well. And even if it's a little bit buggy, that's okay. And that would be in the first year. And that kind of leads into the first core problem that I have with the way Yanderedev works, and the problem that a lot of people have, which is that he doesn't take criticism well, but more importantly to me, he doesn't work well with others.
Mm-hmm.
He has brought people on who have volunteered their time to contribute, code, and instead of taking their suggestions or taking their coding in stride, instead it's just like what we've heard from people who have volunteered on the project and then gotten kicked out of the project is that he gets very possessive of his code, and he gets very possessive of the game to the point that other people aren't able to meaningfully contribute.
A good example is Tiny Build. Tiny Build, from my understanding, is like a smaller game development company where they're like,
They're
we've got like
publisher and game development company.
Okay, yeah. So they're like, hey, we hear about this project that you're working on. Seems pretty popular online. It's kind of moving at a snail's pace. How about we step in and help you out? And at first, Yanderedev was like, that sounds like a great idea. I love this. And a lot of people in that community were really hyped about it. They're like, yeah, the game's going to like come out faster. And then months go by. We hear nothing about the Tiny Build partnership. And then another couple months go by. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm not working with them anymore. Creative differences, but what a lot of people speculate, I don't know if this has been confirmed or not, but the general consensus is that the developer from Tiny Build who came to help him out was using a form of coding, like a different language maybe, that was much more advanced than Yanderedev's knowledge, and he didn't like that. Bob, is this true or not?
I mean, I can't confirm that. Obviously, I have no better sources than you do, but I would say that sounds just like his MO, and also sounds very possible because there are lots of videos out there of looking through Yandere Simulator's leaked code, which Yanderedev denies was leaked, even though it's
his code.
It's the code of the game.
We know that that's the code because
when you run it, it plays the game.
Yeah. Also, I think the person who is now developing a fan version, quote unquote, of Yandere Simulator, which is going by the title Lovesick. Is that the code that they're referencing off of, or did they just start from scratch?
So they started from scratch. They started from scratch. I think originally their design document was kind of based on that, and then there was some drama, which is I think why Yanderedev's back in the public zeitgeist a little bit.
Because he made a big stink about it.
Because he made a big stink about it. But this was years ago. Lovesick started years ago, and then it's kind of back in the zeitgeist, and I'm not entirely sure why.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that this developer worked for a total of 2 weeks, and already the game looks exponentially better than the 6-year progress.
You started the game years ago.
Right.
Lovesick started years ago, and it's only the drama about it was years ago, and now we're hearing about it again because I think there's some slightly newer drama. I do want to point out real quick, I just went to Tiny Build's website, and they have a list of games that they've published, some of which are better known than others. I recognize a few of these. I don't recognize some of them. Let's see. Hello Neighbor was one that they published.
Oh, really?
Pathologic 2 they published. Party Hard, Streets of Rogue, Graveyard Keeper, Speedrunners. These are just the games that I recognize off the top of my head. All successful projects. They're all, they're well enough known. They're indie games made by a small team where Tiny Build said, hey, we would like to help promote you and help you grow. And what do you know? It grew and those people found success. And that's exactly the kind of thing that an indie developer dreams of. And yet when somebody like Tiny Build, when the guys behind Tiny Build go to him and suggest, hey, can we help support your game? He thumbs his nose at them because he's too stuck up and unwilling to see, unwilling to get help, really.
Speaking of, there's some. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Before we, just because, I do want to make sure that I'm following everything. So far, I definitely see where we're at. One thing I just kind of wanted to clarify. So you brought up that he has been working on this game for 6 years now. And I remembered it was familiar to me because I remember, I guess it was 2014. Back in the day, I watched Markiplier run through the simulation.
Yeah.
It was but it was whatever was out there. I guess it was the sample or something, because I remember just at one point it just stopped, and then Markiplier was like, so this is all we have, but it looks cool, and can't wait to see where it goes from here.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen what the game looks like now, but if you look at the character models from 2014, 2015, when the game was first starting to pick up speed, and now in 2020, they look exactly the same. And they look exactly the same because the character models, which Yanderedev has said time and time again, are just stand-ins until he gets better models. Those have been purchased from a Unity store pack. So all the characters are from that pack. And it's been 6 years, and there's been no development in the character models.
It's fine if you want to use assets bought from a pack. That is legitimate.
Yeah, nothing wrong with Unity.
Don't tell people that you're not going to do that, and then you do it. And also, don't tell people that it's the temporary thing if it, by all indications, is the permanent thing.
Yeah, and he's been given has been offered really beautiful character models. I saw some on Twitter, and somebody was like, hey, I made these for Yanderedev. They look stunning. He goes on and on all the time about how he's oh, this game is supposed to be like Hitman and Persona. The models that this person made for him look like something out of Persona, and he doesn't use them because he refused to credit the creator at all. And that's the case for a lot of the volunteers who contribute to this project. A lot of them go uncredited and uncompensated when they're making the game for him, essentially. He says he's a one-man team, and that is absolutely not true.
And it's funny you mention that because I'm on his website, on the Abouts page. There's a section here, there's a question here. Are you going to change Yandere Simulator's character models? And he describes why he doesn't like the current character models. He says, from an aesthetic standpoint, I dislike the way they look. Their necks are super short, and their proportions make them look more like middle schoolers than high schoolers. Question mark. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I'm just reading off the page. From a practical standpoint, their faces don't have much flexibility, so they lack the ability to express extreme emotions and aren't able to be very expressive in general. So he's pointing out things that he doesn't like about the thing. But then he says, however, whether or not Yandere Simulator gets new character models is dependent on the outcome of the game's crowdfunding campaign, so it's currently impossible to promise whether or not it will actually happen or when it will happen. And I'm baffled by this because he's got
Let me go to his
Patreon.
Patreon really quick. Yeah, let's see how much money he makes, because quite a while ago he was making $4,000 a month, and that dropped quite a bit because of some drama that came out that would not have come out if he didn't make that one video, Hate and Shame, because most of his funders were unaware of what was going on outside of the little Yandere Simulator community. And then he made that video, and they're like, oh, gee, what's going on with Yanderedev? And then they looked it up, and they're like, oh, no, that's not good.
It turns out that this guy's
a big jerk.
Some drama.
Yeah.
So he's got, at time of recording, he's got 597 patrons, and he's making $1,687 per month.
Jeez, that dropped a lot.
Yeah, it dropped a lot, but consider. He says anything over $1,000 will cause him to focus 100% of his attention on Yandere Simulator, and he'd like to earn at least $3,500 per month. That's his personal goal. If he gets that much money, then it is well within reason that he could save up some of that money and use it to just straight up commission an artist to do new models. That is well within reason.
Mm-hmm. But he doesn't want to pay the people who contribute to this project because he's greedy. Yanderedev, in case you're listening.
He's not. He's already clicked off.
For sure. They're saying mean things about me. I don't like these gremlins.
If he's seeing this video, he's left a dislike, then he's left.
Yeah. Throwback to when he called everybody who gives him criticism gremlins. That was fun. I appreciated that. So, hi, fellow gremlins. Welcome to the clan. I was going to start naming the names of some of the goblins in our D&D game, and then I remembered probably not okay.
There are...
another okay, so it's been 6 years. The character models are the same. They haven't improved.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Okay. An indie game company was like, hey, we'll help you out.
Mm-hmm.
He said, thanks, and then he was like, never mind.
Yeah.
My precious.
Basically,
yeah.
Then random people were like, hey, I care about this. I'll help you. And he was like, but no credit for you. Wahaha.
Yeah.
And then, okay, fine. But now, and I want to be clear, I'm not a big gamer expert and whatnot. But, like, when we say no progress in 6 years, what do we mean progress?
Let me throw something out there. Let me throw something out there.
Markiplier played in 2014, we have more than that.
I mean, we do.
Okay.
We have more than that.
Aesthetically.
No, I mean, there's definitely gameplay things that are in place that weren't in place then. But there's no point adding new features when the old features are busted.
Mm-hmm.
There's no point increasing the scope of the project when you can't handle the current scope that you've presented to the audience and also that you've said you want to achieve. For example, in the current build of the game, the July build of the game, you can't select to have your senpai target as female. You can't do it.
That's cool.
No, you cannot do it.
Oh.
That is planned. If you choose that, there's an option. It says in the game, like when you're picking what your character looks like and whatever, which you can't really do anything with it either. Mm-hmm. But when you're starting up the game, it says, do you want to be male or female? Do you want your senpai to be male or female? You can't make your senpai female. And that, if you've got female characters in the game and you've got a female main character, you would think that would be a thing that you would pretty easily. I mean, you could probably knock that out in a week.
Mm-hmm.
As a feature. It's like realistically, all you've got to do is, like, if you want it to be voiced and you don't have a voice actor, that's fine. Just put text on screen. Nobody thinks this game is done yet. So just put the feature in and then fill in the extra details later. You could do that, but he hasn't. And that would be a very easy... I mean, like, the thing about an alpha build and the thing about presenting a game to an audience and seeking money for it is that when you're marketing a game, the best thing you can do is front load what people see, right? Mm. So, like, when someone watches a video game trailer or a movie trailer, what we're seeing is completed shots. What we're seeing is completed sections of the game or some kind of illustrative image or video or gameplay that will indicate what we should be experiencing. Famously, Halo 2, when Halo 2 was being marketed, the first trailer/gameplay that they released at E3 had a huge section of the game which looks incredible. It looks expansive, but it was very, very hallway-like. If you were to travel a little bit off the path, the whole thing breaks. The whole E3 demo completely breaks. And the reason they showed that was because they wanted us to get a sense of what the game should feel like. Mm-hmm. Now, that part of the game that they showed at E3 doesn't even exist in the final Halo 2. It's just not there. Even the gun you use isn't in the game Halo 2. But the fact that they showed us something that we had confidence in, that we saw and we went, man, that looks really fun, makes us want to spend our money. That's that's the whole point of marketing, right? His game, instead, is busted and missing features from the get-go. Right? From the very beginning of the game, you have the option, it says on screen, you have the option to pick a female senpai. No, you don't. That says it's coming in a later build. It's been 6 years.
Yeah.
That's a feature that you could add in a week.
But he keeps
So-
adding, like, nonsense features.
Extras,
Easter eggs.
bonuses, Easter eggs.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's fun. That's nice. I like Easter eggs too. But, like, you need a functional game underneath all that. And there are things in the game that are unpalatable already. in addition to all of the stuff we've said about he doesn't take criticism well, like there's a speedrun category for getting banned from his Discord. If you say anything mean about if you say anything mean about him in his Discord, he'll ban you.
Not
And it doesn't
even, like,
have to be-
sometimes
doesn't
you
even
can
have
just
to be
get
that mean.
banned.
Yeah, you can get banned for saying something like, hey, I can't get the game running. Because, you know, you might legitimately want to get the game running, and you say,
He's the best person to go to, I would imagine.
yeah, and so you go to the Discord and you say, hey, does anybody have any advice? I'm having a bug that's causing me to, you know, whatever. And at that point, you're in trouble.
Yeah, because you're criticizing the project.
Because you're criticizing the project. That's one of the rules for his Discord.
Yeah.
You can make that a rule, and your fan.
You can do whatever you want when you're Yanderedev, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's... By the way, how old do you think he is? Just take a guess.
You know, I don't think I've actually seen what he looks
No,
like.
ignore what he looks like. Just based on the behavior we've described, how old would you say?
Oh, maybe 20?
He's 32.
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
a grown man.
So this is well past the age when somebody's saying even slightly... And here's the thing. He's basically a lol cow. Right? Where his behavior is so easily exploited for laughs that people just keep doing it. And, like, if he would just calm down, people would forget about him. But instead, he does things and says things. We haven't even gotten to the worst stuff he does.
Yeah, I haven't even talked about the whole Eva Zephon phase. I don't know if we're going to get to that, but in case we don't,
if you
lots of
want to,
videos.
you can go for it.
One thing.
While I
guess,
pull up the receipts on the stuff I was going to talk about.
Yeah, Zach, ask your thing first, and then I'll get into the throwback history.
I think this is just my final thing because, like, or I think we're already starting to get a picture of, like, we're dealing with a really immature. I guess I'll figure out more, but right now I'm wondering if he's, like, kind of just like you know, like that artist mentality that I've never experienced firsthand, but, like, you know, some people can be really, like, passionate about their work, but at the same time, the fact that he doesn't seem to be making as much progress as he arguably should.
Yeah. Like, something I will say is that as an artist, and this is, like, coming from somebody who considers myself a hobby artist, but, like, in whatever craft you do, you need to be able to take criticism, because usually that criticism comes from a place of wanting you to do better and wanting you to succeed. Not all the time. Like, you can get, like, some people who are like, this sucks, just to say that it sucks for no reason. But usually people want to help you, so they'll give you criticism and they'll give you feedback because they see potential in you to do better. And if you refuse to take that criticism, you refuse to take any form of feedback, you're going to stay in a rut of, like, your current skill level, and you're never going to see yourself improve. And you're doing yourself a disservice when you do that. Because you could be this great artist or this good game developer or this amazing whatever, but you're like, no, I'm great the way I am. Yes, you are, but you could be better.
Yeah, and, like, you know, even on me, like, on a lesser or just different scale, like, with editing these videos, like, before Kind of Friends, I never edited a video before in my life. And I think pretty much every time I edit a video, not every time, so that's not that dramatic, but, like, sometimes, like, Bob or Connor will be like, hey, you know, I noticed this thing, if you do this, it'll be good. And my first reaction is, oh my gosh, I'm trash, I need to just throw in the towel.
No.
But I listen, and it's usually right.
Yeah. Like, there have been times where we've, like, put a video up and we're like, oh, hold on, we gotta fix something.
Can't hear anybody.
Yeah. Why are there these big, like, silences? This is weird. But then we fix it because we're like, oh, we made a mistake. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to, like, do something and then realize, oh no, I should change that. It's part of growing. It's part of being a person. but you gotta recognize when somebody's like, hey, I'm here to help you.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that is something that's just so interesting with, like, like, as tossed around the term, like, cancel culture is right now. But, like, it is very, I think it's definitely getting blurred, like, genuine criticism and hate.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like, if you could, your audio is kind of imbalanced. Just, that's something. Like,
Yeah.
if it's like, oh, well, I don't have like a good mic, or I'm still figuring it out, it's a work in progress. Like, even if you can't like adjust whatever the issue is right now, there's no reason to get mad at whoever's pointing out whatever they're pointing out.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get into that in a second once I start getting into the Yanderedev lore. But to steer this ship back into the sea,
Yeah.
I mentioned the name, or the pseudonym rather, Eva Zephon. So before Yanderedev was Yanderedev, he was a youngster on the internet. He was like, "Hi everybody, I'm Eva Zephon." Except he wasn't a nice sweet boy like he tries to present himself as. Usually, like when you watch a Yanderedev video, he's like, "Hello everybody. Today, I am giving you the January update for Yandere Simulator." That's not what he's really like. Here's what he's really like.
No.
No two ways about it. This man's an incel. And I'm not just calling him an incel to call him an incel. You go back and you find, like, some posts that he made back in the day. It's real gross and nasty. Some highlights. He said that he wanted to kill his parents. And I think I'm gonna leave it there. Just that stuff you don't say.
In case you, mostly my dad listening, don't know what an incel is, it means an involuntary celibate. So that's like a guy who's mad at people
Because
for
women
not
don't
sleeping
like
with
them.
him.
Usually the
Yeah.
problem with incels, I say usually, but always, the problem with incels is that their personality is garbage. And therefore women do not want to be around them because they're awful to be around. And so they equate that with like, oh, women do not like me. Oh, I hate women. That's our man Yanderedev.
I would like to say, though, that parent murder usually does not factor in, does it?
I would say no, but let's look at some of the big examples of incels.
I think we should step away from the whole incel topic for a second here, because there's stuff in the game that's not speculative.
Yeah.
That is very, very weird and bad.
Ooh,
One of the things, the game is set in high school.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about
high
this.
Schoolers. There are high schoolers everywhere, right? And he says, let me see if I can find it exactly. I found the part where he, quote unquote, debunks the claim that he wanted to kill his parents. Actually, you know what? I want to mention something about that. He has a section on his website called Debunks.
Oh boy.
In it, he actually mentions the Yanderedev wants to kill his parents. In short, no, I don't. This is his response. I was extremely surprised to learn that when I was extremely surprised to learn that when I was a kid, I apparently wrote a post about being so angry with my parents that I wanted them to die. I have absolutely no memory of ever feeling that way towards my parents, but since this post exists, I guess I must have felt that way at some point in time. That post was written when I was a teenage kid. Grr, I hate my parents. I wish they were dead. Is the sort of thing that an edgy teenager kid would say. This doesn't seem like a reflection of who I am. It seems like a reflection of what edgy teenage kids are like. I'll be honest, I don't really care.
That's
Because,
not
like,
what he said, though, because he went into quite great detail, but sure, you're 14 and you're angry. I'll give you a pass there, but not really.
Yeah, I never said anything like that as an edgy teenager.
Mm-hmm.
I know lots of edgy teenagers who never did, like, that's not a thing. Then here's another one that's an interesting thing. These are things I'm pulling from his debunk section. So, like, These are things where people have made this accusation at him long enough that he has to clarify about
Before
it,
you say
right?
that, before you go into that, something I just want to say. Imagine you just heard about this game and you're like, oh boy, I can't wait to find out more information about this game that I like a whole lot. And you go to the website and you're clicking around, you're rating up on all the information you can find, and you come across this section of the website. You know nothing about the developer. You don't know anything about the drama that he's been involved in. You're just a new player and you're ready to learn. Go ahead.
You know what? That's actually a good point. I was wondering, like, because of like the few games that I've played, I don't even think I can think of anybody right now. I feel like there is one developer that I was like, oh, I'm like so happy that they did this. But even then, I don't really know. Is it normal to know this much about the developer of a game?
Not really.
No. Okay, so Yanderedev told someone to, and I'm gonna say this, but I want you to bleep the first word I'm about to say.
Okay.
For the sake of your video.
For the sake of monetization.
Yanderedev told someone themselves on stream.
He did. He did
What?
that twice to do different people on that stream.
And this is from his website, his explanation of what happened. In short, this did actually happen, but there is context that you are probably unaware of. First of all,
Context? Whoa!
and he's about to describe the context. He's about to describe the context,
Let's
but
hear
let's put a pause right now and just say that's never an okay thing to say.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
First, quote, I'm reading from his website. First, it's extremely important to acknowledge that there's a massive difference between sincerely telling someone to simply saying a rude phrase in a brief moment of anger. That's not a rude phrase. That's way more than a rude phrase. It doesn't matter whether you say it in a moment of anger or a sincere attempt. It does not matter.
You don't say that to people.
Just, quick disclaimer. It's never okay because you don't know the other person on the other side could be going through those sorts of tendencies anyway.
Yeah.
And you're just pushing them over. So it's never okay to even joke like that.
So here's what it says. In order to understand what happened, you need to remember what I stated at the top of this page. A group of people spent more than a year harassing me on a daily basis. You really need to keep this in mind. It's extremely important. Being subjected to that much abuse had an extremely negative impact on my mental health. One time, when I was streaming a video game, someone came into my stream and started harassing me. I figured that it was one of the trolls who had been tormenting me for more than a year. After more than a year of daily harassment, I was fed up with being abused and mistreated. In a spontaneous moment of anger, I said that phrase to the troll. I've only said once in my entire life, I'm not the sort of guy who normally says this sort of thing.
Sure, Dan.
Torment, abuse, whatever, blah blah blah. Last paragraph. I later learned that the person I said to was actually a fan of Yandere Simulator who was inadvertently being annoying and obnoxious.
Idiot.
Wait.
So first, I want to discuss that phrasing real quick.
I had
I
accidentally mistaken them for one of the trolls who had been harassing me. I actually said to an innocent person, and I feel bad about that. Full stop. Let me pump the brakes here. Even if they weren't quote unquote innocent, that's still not okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't, because he used a lot of strong language here, saying like, is there any way, are either of you guys familiar with what these trolls were doing?
I mean, people
going into
people
his
do
Discord
things like,
servers and being a little obnoxious, but like
Yeah, no, I mean, like,
basically posting memes.
I definitely get how it would be annoying. I definitely get how it could... Like, there are people who will send really angry things to him. I supported you on Patreon, and you're wasting your time, something. Those kinds of things, I get that. Probably people telling him to do it, right? Like, there are definitely people out there who will take criticism and throw it to the wayside in order to just be mean on the internet. I get that. And I totally understand. I totally understand how frustrating that can be. Sometimes we get that on our videos, not very often, but we're not very big. If we made as much of a stink on the internet and we're such a lolcow on the internet, I'm certain we would get the same kind of response. But that doesn't excuse this behavior. And more importantly, it actually doesn't excuse how ready he is to be this bad, basically at all times. Because when the lead developer of Lovesick was in contact with Yanderedev fairly recently, I think it was within the last month.
Last couple weeks, probably.
I'm quoting here. This is messages from Yanderedev to the developer of Lovesick. The actual drama started a while ago, but I don't feel like talking about that. If you are aware that your project is having so many destructive consequences on another person's life, how can you possibly continue? Don't you see how harmful and damaging this is for me? If the cost of Yandere Simulator was ending a person's life, I'd cancel development. That's a threat.
So he is telling.
He's telling the developer of the other guy.
Fan game or whatever it is.
Right.
That if you need to stop or
I'm going to commit
do bad thing. Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
dude.
What? Okay. I mean, there's so much to unpack. Okay. Before I touch that, I just going back to the troll.
And he okay, go ahead.
Whatever.
I just want to say he has a section on his debunk section about that screenshot, about that quote, and it's pretty dicey.
Okay.
His explanation is really dicey.
Well, okay. Before
Do we expect any less of him, though?
I'm glad that we're doing this because this is just a lot of. I understand why people are talking about him already, and you're not even done.
We haven't even gotten to the gross stuff in the game yet.
In the game, we're not even talking about the game.
Yeah,
This is
we've
all
barely
stuff in the real
spoken
world.
about the game.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, wait. Okay. So, back to this troll thing. Like, we said our piece, like, it's never okay to tell someone to do harmful
That,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, do that thing. But, I can understand, I can sympathize. Like, in a fit of anger, you say whatever you say, That's, and you say sorry and you move on. But it's weird that he didn't just say, like, I was really frustrated. I said that, I'm sorry. But it's like, he says, like, no, those people still deserve to do that. It's just this person likes me. So they shouldn't have had to hear that.
Yeah.
But those people who bug me, they should do it.
Yeah.
Still.
Like, this
Which I
doesn't
think
apply
is a
to you
weird
if you're
thing.
like a nice, supportive fan of me. If you're a goblin gremlin hater, yeah, I meant what I said and I'm not taking it back. What's wrong with you?
That's
Why
such a weird,
would you say that?
It's just, like, even if that's how you feel inside your heart of hearts.
Don't put that out into the internet space.
And at least don't put it on this section that you've put, like, there's a lot of controversy around me. This'll clear that right up.
Yeah.
Don't put that there. At least put it everywhere else but there.
And again, imagine if you're a new player, you just want to like look up fun stuff about the game because the game's not done and it's been 6 years. So you go to the website, you see this blog post, you read the whole thing in full. You had no idea this was happening prior to you discovering this game.
Now, let me be clear real quick.
Can I get an example of a game that took 6 years to finish? Just like,
Okay.
Cuphead?
Yeah, Cuphead took 6 years.
Because every
Cuphead
frame in the
took more
game.
than that, I think.
Yeah, they took a
Yeah.
break in between, but that game took so long to develop because every frame is hand drawn. So understandably, it takes
hand-drawn and
forever.
scanned.
Yeah.
Right? There's the game. There's the game. Duke Nukem Forever is noted to be a game that got stuck. It was 14 years of development, and they ended up with a very mediocre game. And the reason for that is because the game started development in one engine and then moved to another engine, and then they ran out of money, and then they moved to another engine, and they ran out of money in that engine, and then the project was dead for a while, and they got picked up and got moved to another. Like, they went through so many different changes because the guys making the game mishandled the project. And
Okay.
eventually it came out, and it wasn't that great, but, like...
Good
it
for
took
them for
14 years
finishing it
that
anyways.
Yeah, they got it done, and it was over, and whatever, right? And, that's not to say that those guys are bad programmers.
Yeah.
You can screw up the development of a game and still end up with a mediocre project and still be a talented developer, right? If Yanderedev were to finish the game now, then I don't know how he could then turn around and pivot that into a career anywhere else in the game industry, because he has a reputation. His real name, his real face, and several of his pseudonyms are all already out there on the internet for people to look up. And if anyone looks him up, like he tries to apply at any of the big publishers or any of the big developers or even at any of the small developers, the first thing that comes up when they seek him out is, this guy can't work with people. This guy backstabs people. He steals money. He breaks contracts. He's incapable of taking criticism. Even if that stuff's not true. Even if it's not true, he has completely screwed himself.
And this isn't his first game either. To kind of segue back into like Yanderedev not being able to take criticism. The first game that he made, I don't know how many years ago this was. This was before 2014 for sure. He made a game called Lunar Scythe. Not very good. Never played it. I don't think you can play it because it's kind of lost, but like not good. So he took this game to one of the developers for Skullgirls, Mike Z, and it pains me to say Z, but but Mike Z.
Because you want to say Mike Zed?
Yeah, but that sounds terrible.
You silly Canadian.
Mike said. So he brings this game to him, and he's like, please play my game and tell you what you think. So he plays the game, and he's like, it's not very good. I'm sorry, buddy. It's a little bit of a mess. But hey, you know what? That's okay. It's your first try. I'm going to give you some pointers for how to improve your skill and how to better yourself as a game developer. And Yanderedev said, oh wow, thank you, Mike Z. That was so helpful. I will absolutely take this advice and make a good, successful game in a reasonable amount of time. Except he didn't do that. He expected Mike Z to give him a pat on the butt and tell him he did a great job. And now he uses this as like, oh, I'm now going to spite Mike Z and make the best game ever because he told me I'm a loser.
I have the exact post that he wrote on 4chan about getting these messages back from Mike Z, who, reminder, gave him the idea that, like, hey man, here's where I think you should work on it. Here's what I think you should do. Skullgirls, by the way, a phenomenal fighting game.
Yeah, I never played it, but one of our mutual friends used to play it all the time in high school.
So good.
It looks lovely.
It's so good. Yeah. It's a really great game and really complicated and interesting, and that's kind of the thing that inspired Yanderedev. So I'm like, cool, great. You were inspired by an artist, and you went to that artist and you showed him, and the artist had some critiques for you. But Mike Z is notably a very cool guy to be around. I know a guy who met him at a con, and he was really cool there, and that's cool. This is what he said on 4chan. I was inspired to become an indie dev by a very well-known programmer who almost single-handedly programmed a fighting game. He was my hero, my inspiration. I decided to try my hand at making a fighting game engine. I worked on it for 3 months, and I was really proud of it, so I decided to show it to my hero. He was really unimpressed. He asked to see my code and criticized it very harshly. He told me he would never want to hire me or work for me. He told me that my engine was absolute garbage. He told me that with the level of coding experience he had back in 1999, he could have made a better engine than I'd made. This is not true.
Oh no.
This is a lie.
This is just not true. He's just made this up. Prior to that experience, I was feeling very confident about my coding ability, but after meeting my hero and showing him my game, I just felt like some kind of talentless fraud. I felt like I had just wasted the last 3 months. I started wondering if I should abandon the game, abandon my dreams of a career in the game industry. I wonder if I should never have faith in my own talent again. Worst of all, my hero said all of this in the chat room with my friends in it, making me look terrible in front of everyone. I lost the respect of my friends, my self-confidence, my career plans, 3 months of work, and my dream of making a fighting game, all in one night. It was devastating. I became depressed. I turned my depression into a burning hatred that fuels my desire to develop indie games and eventually outshine that a-hole.
Like, he uses
You know
this as,
what's
like,
funny?
a don't meet your heroes type of thing. But, like, Mike Z was
Yeah.
definitely like, hey, you can do better. Like, Yanderedev went to school for, like, some type of game development degree, right? Like, I don't know what it
I
was.
don't know.
Like, he went to University of Santa Monica or whatever for some type of associate's degree that has something to do with game development. So he has some skill level in game development. And I guess he's just using none of that knowledge. And I want to touch on the coding for a second. I know absolutely nothing about coding. I used to do like the HTML coding for my Tumblr blogs back in 2015, and all that knowledge is gone. So, Bob, can you explain the difference between a switch statement and an if-else statement?
Sure.
Because
Sure.
I've heard people explain it, and I can't wrap my brain around it.
Okay, so an if-else. If-else is like a really... I'd say primitive in the meaning that, like, it's older than a switch statement, right? So, like, if-else is not primitive as in unuseful. It's still very useful in certain circumstances. Mm-hmm. It's just that an if-else is less useful when you've got lots of options. And here's the basic gist of it. If I say, if in programming, and I'll try to make this clear, I hope I can, an if-else is going to be something like, if statement is true, like I hand you a fruit, or let's say I'm going to hand you an object, and you have options for if it's an apple, a banana, an orange, or anything else, right?
Okay.
So the if-else way to do it would be, if object is an apple, do something, else if the object is a banana, do something, else if it's an orange, do something, else whatever you should do if it's none of those, right? So in that case, if I hand you a wrench, it's not an apple, it's not a banana, it's not an orange. So it goes through and it says, okay, let me check if it's an apple. No, it's not an apple. Move on. Then it does another check. Oh, is it a banana? Okay, no, it's not a banana. Let me move on. Oh, is it an orange? No, it's not an orange. Let's move on. Oh, now we're at the else statement. We'll just do that.
So you have to cycle through all the options before you get to the one.
We cycle through
that's
all
appropriate.
the options. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. With a switch statement, instead it's just switch object. And then you have a list of options. And so then, instead of doing a check to say, you know, is it an apple? No. Is it a banana? No. Is it an orange? No. Instead, it would be switch, switch apple, switch banana, switch orange, and the code would go, I have an object, it is a wrench, therefore, go to the end. It just skips over checking all the conditions.
Okay.
So it checks it once versus checking it 3 times.
Okay. So
right? So checking it once versus checking it 3 times doesn't sound like a big deal, except that when your computer needs to spend processor time checking things, and you have every character with hundreds of if statements running simultaneously, because some of those should be grouped into like 20 states of switch, you know, you can cut that processor time down by a factor of 20, because you've taken 20 if statements and turned them all into one switch statement. Now that's not going to be for every switch, and sometimes if it's like yes or no, you can usually just do an if else. That won't have any computational benefit to go if versus switch, right?
Right.
But all these characters are constantly doing things like, can I see the character? Do I see a knife? Do I see this thing? Do I see that thing? Nesting ifs means that you have to do all the ifs in the entire... I mean, it's a matter of
it clogs up the
multiplying
code,
the amount of work.
my understanding.
Yeah, it clogs up the code, and it means that if you don't have a super powerful PC, then you can't run the game well.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, when you're playing a game, it needs to be able to run for anyone to even have a chance of enjoying the game.
Yeah. And he likes to say, like, you need a
remember,
gaming computer to play Yandere Simulator. No, you just need to cut your code down so the game works. And he's capable of writing switch statements. People have, like, gone through the code and be like, here's a switch statement, but here's an if-else statement that does the exact same thing.
He's gone through his code and pointed out, like, here's where you've got a switch statement. And he says, see, I can write a switch statement. But he refuses to go back through his bad old code and fix the old stuff that has a bunch of if statements because it would take too long.
But he says it takes like 2 seconds. I'm like, okay, so then just spend a day or a couple of days going through the code and fixing it.
One thing about the Good Computer deal is I remember when I was watching Markiplier's videos. I should really get back into watching him, I guess. I really enjoyed watching those. I don't know if they're still up. Probably. But anyway, when I watch those, and like he plays games and televises them for a living. So I imagine he has a pretty good computer. So that being said, he was still like he has such a delightful spirit. He never got mad at all. But he was like, "Oh, it's a
little laggy."
She's a little laggy.
Oh, the frame rate's kind of not there.
I do remember with the Yonder, I don't know if she went through any changes or whatever, but the Yonder that's killing everybody, I remember she moved in a weird way. She'd be here, and then we would see nothing, and then she was like a little bit more away.
Yeah, the character animations are interesting. They're not great. Again, I'm not a game developer. I'm not a modeler, so I don't know how difficult it is to animate moving.
Yeah,
but it's been 6 years.
I'm not an animator. I have no idea, but there are people who are capable and willing to help, and he won't take their help because he won't credit them.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the game a little bit?
Yes, I have so many notes on the game itself.
I want to say a couple things. I'm going to post in muted here. So this is from Out of Context Yanderedev, which is
great Twitter account.
Twitter account where he says out of context, but a lot of times he provides the context.
I think it started off as just him posting memes, but then he's like, no, I'm going to become a Yandere Data Digger 2.0 and provide context. So that's fair.
I'm taking screenshots here so that you can put these in the video if you want.
Okay.
Here's a tweet where they show the heaviest model in Yandere Simulator is actually a toothbrush. And 5,592 faces, meaning it takes, do you understand the basics of 3D modeling, Lil Z?
Just from looking at this,
it looks very complicated, right?
Well, I guess what
bristles.
I was gonna say was, with the whole almost 6K faces or whatever. I'm assuming
surfaces.
Faces are the surfaces, exactly.
Okay.
Here's in the replies to that. Somebody wrote somebody named Turbonic Z Sino. He modeled really quickly a new toothbrush that could be used. And it's 188 polygons of toothbrush. And you might be like...
faces.
Yeah, polygons and faces are the same.
Okay.
So you can see the difference here. And the difference is that Turbonic is coming at this from the approach of, it's a toothbrush, nobody cares. Not only does nobody care, but having it small in a scene means that almost no one will ever see most of the toothbrush.
You don't even have to have the whole toothbrush visible. If you need it as a prop, put it in a glass, model the glass, put the top of the toothbrush in the glass, problem solved.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the game, it's not like you kill people with a toothbrush.
No,
it's just even if bathroom, there's a
even
toothbrush.
if you do kill people with a toothbrush, it doesn't really matter because you could use that bottom model for a toothbrush in a game that has stylized to look like anime anyway. Sharp angles are part of the anime aesthetic. So
That's
you
true.
can easily use this bottom one for everything you need, because you're never going to have it scaled up to the size where you're going to look at the fine detail, right?
Yeah.
Unless your character shrinks down and walks between the bristles of those toothbrushes, you don't need all the bristles.
It's
That's true, yeah.
Why?
You just don't need it. And the fact that it's designed for realism in CGI commercials totally makes sense. Because, if I'm making a commercial for a toothbrush company or like a toothpaste company and I want an image of a toothbrush to be zoomed in on and then toothpaste to go on it and do something with that.
You want it to
then
look
it makes
good.
perfect sense. You want it to look good even on very zoomed in scales.
Right.
But this game is not about toothbrushes.
It's not Toothbrush Simulator.
Right. All you have to do to make that toothbrush look okay is just like color in the sides to look like it's got bristles.
Like, Well, we're on the topic of things in the game. Sorry, Zach, say your thing and then we'll scoot over.
That's a segue, a nice thing. That's the nice thing in the game that's not great. There are things in the game that aren't so nice.
The one, before you tell me those, I really want to take in that this guy, and I don't know his level of expertise, but he did this in 8 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know his level of expertise.
But it's better than mine, because I can't 3D model.
Yeah, let me see if he says he models and animates and makes music. That's what he says on his Twitter. Which is like
Go
cool.
follow Turbonic Z.
Well, we don't know what else he's into. He might be cool. He might be really bad. I have no idea.
But in this case,
he's okay.
He can make one nice toothbrush.
Good job. Yeah. Excellent
he's
toothbrush.
At least
competent
at his proposed job.
Yeah. All right. Where do we begin with the stuff in the game that's bad?
Can I begin with something?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got male characters and female characters, and they're in a high school.
Yes.
Lil Z, what's the age range of people in high school?
If we're gonna go young, it's like 14 to 18.
Actually, you're wrong. It's all 18-year-olds.
It's just a high school full of 12th grade students who all happen to have fall, winter, and spring birthdays. No summer birthdays. What a coincidence.
Yeah, and in fact, what's especially weird is how he says, and I'm trying to find the exact wording he says. He says that all the characters in the game are 18, even if otherwise specified.
If that's like your only, in my notes I say somewhere.
Am
where
I
do
the only one falling into a pit now? Like what?
What did I say in my notes? I said if that's your only like excuse for like why something is the way it is, hey, ignore like the conflicting evidence. What I say is true. No. That's a bad excuse. There is absolutely no way that every student in this high school, including one of the potential rivals who's nowhere near implemented, is supposed to be like Senpai's little sister who's like 1 to 2 years younger than him and 1 to 2 grades behind him. There's absolutely no way that she is also 18. That's a bold-faced lie.
Well, I guess here's something that I think is weird about that. It's weird that, like, even I think in the last video we did, we were talking about Glee, our last deep dish, card in the corner. We were talking about how, like, they always want to, like, sexualize teens.
Mr. Shoe.
That's what sells.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, but, you can do that. So it's not like it's not like he's the only one who is it like assumed that like, oh, he's so creepy? It seems like
he is creepy.
It seems like he's making it creepy by being like, no, it's all on the up and up, guys. I'm not creepy.
Absolutely.
If he was just like, it's a high school thing, and like, there's anime about this.
Sweetie, there's a whole game mechanic where you sell panty shots of other students. That's
Yeah,
an entire
that
game
was the other thing I
mechanic,
was gonna say.
and that got his
Well-
game banned from Twitch because Twitch was like, "This isn't okay. These are high school students." And Alex, almost said his name. His name's Alex. We all know that. Yanderedev was like, "Ooh, what do you mean? They're all 18. I don't see why that's a problem. Taking panty shots of people, regardless of how old they are, is gross and nasty." No.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, there's a character. No, hang on. There's a character in the game you give the panty shots to in order to get. You use it like a currency with that character.
But there's also real currency in the game.
No, hang on. And there's also your character murders people and does other things, like you have to get a fake ID in order to buy, I believe, to buy alcohol in the game and other things. And we're not saying, I don't want it to be said that like Yanderedev is supporting any of those activities, but he did build it into his game.
He also...
And
Sorry,
you
go
don't
ahead.
have to build it into your game.
Another thing that he said that really supports the, like, him being a creepy weirdo was his whole, like, the license. I'm not going to say what the license is for, but if you know anything about this man, you know what I'm referring to.
I do want to say, I just found the screenshot. I forgot that it's in the game.
Yeah.
It says all characters depicted are 18 or older, even if otherwise specified, which is... that's not even a thing of, like, they're all 18 just because I say so. Because that's the argument of, like, when you're looking at, like, a lolly manga, which is, like...
She's really
that's
400,
touchy.
it's okay.
Right, that's touchy, but at the very least, it's a consistent message, right? Where you say, I'm the artist and I'm saying this. In this case, he makes the game. He says in one place, the starting of the game, they're 18 or older, and then in a completely different place, it says, even if otherwise stated, even if otherwise specified, you're the one specifying.
This is your
If you
game.
are the one specifying, you don't need to, like... I'm never gonna say I'm 27, except on Thursdays. I'm never gonna say that.
Why? No. And, like, for sure, the only reason why he's like, oh, don't worry, they're all 18, is so he can put these characters in lewd situations, and so he can sell body pillows of the characters. That's a thing he's doing. I'm not just saying that for the sake of saying that.
I thought he said they were ugly. Why is
What?
it?
Wait, no, what?
It's too soon to sell them.
No, look. Again, I don't even necessarily have a problem with that. Because if he set the game in college, then he can sell body pillows of his characters.
Yeah.
I don't really care.
Like, I don't care, like, what... My problem comes
like,
from the
his-
fact that they're high school students. It's the
Right,
same
he's
problem I have
intentionally
with
set the
shows like
game.
Riverdale. Where
Yeah.
they're like, ooh, look, they're all 16, but ooh, look at this situation. Ooh, I'm like,
You know,
that's gross, stop.
Yeah, again, card in the corner for when I talked about Riverdale. I don't even remember if this is the episode that I talked about with Rogue. But, like, the way that they majorly downplayed Archie's canoodling with his teacher
Ooh,
is so weird.
that reminds me.
It rivals Pretty Little Liars.
Another thing that's in this game is you have the 10 rivals, right? Remember, it's taken 6 years for one rival to not even be finished yet. But there's supposed to be 10. At least 2 of the rivals are staff at the school.
Yeah, I don't know. He says let me. Oh, yeah, that's true. He also said that he's not ready to release the game as a full. Or let me see. What he says. When will the first official rival be implemented? The first official rival reached a state of rough completion in December 2019.
He said that Osana was supposed to be finished in December of 2016.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
I estimate the first official rival will be released in June 2020. Depending on how much I would like to polish the overall experience before releasing her, it's possible she may not be released until July 2020. I believe she is released at time of recording, and I believe he also said that he wants to have at least 2 rivals done before he officially releases the game. And I would like to say, what?
No.
Are we going to be done with the game in 2045?
Okay, wait. Now, okay. Again, I understand that, like, this, pretty much all of this, Discord chat aside, this is all pretty much new information to me. So, I keep bringing it back to the 6 years business. But next, what has he been doing?
Streaming
for 6 years?
for 8 hours a day and then complaining, oh, I never take time off from developing this game. And then you go to like his Twitch highlights and it's just hours and hours of him playing games. I'm like, buddy.
Like, not like his game?
No, not his game.
Stream?
Just playing other games.
And I mean, like, it is, he could do that.
Yeah.
Like, if people want, like, he knows there are professional Twitch streamers. He could do that. He could say, like, look, I'm handing over the reins of development to someone who wants to finish it up. I'm completely cutting myself off from this project, and instead I'm going to become a Twitch streamer. And if he wanted to do that, he could, and I'm certain there would be people who would still donate to him. And, I mean, he's still got a bunch of people on his Patreon.
Yeah.
Those people would probably, some of them would probably leave, but, I mean, there are probably a fair few who would just move with him.
He'd still get a good little chunk of dough from doing Twitch.
Yeah, and that's fine. He's allowed to
Yeah.
do that. That would be totally fine. And, I don't think anybody would really mind. But instead, like, I don't know how he's going to pivot this ludicrously bad, what's it called? Reputation that he has into something
productive.
I don't know how he's going to do that.
And this is one thing I do remember from the Discord chat that Aaron and I think brought up. So I heard about this years ago because I saw Markiplier play with it, and he was like, "Yeah, this is cool." Totally forgot about it, and then I just sort of see it like lighting up on YouTube trending again. This Yanderedev person, and like this is the news. But like, let's say he finishes the game tonight. Does anybody really care anymore? Like, isn't the meme kind of over? It doesn't really seem like it's like kind of like as relevant as like the Emoji Movie. No, like are people still into Yandere?
Back in the day, back in like 2016, I think that 2016 was like the best year for Yandere Simulator. Everybody was playing it. You had these big YouTubers who are really invested in the game, and they're like, yeah, this is great. So Yandere Simulator was like a competitor for indie games at the time. Those indie games have come and gone. They have been successful, or they flopped, or whatever the case may be. Yandere Simulator has not progressed at all, and that trend for simulation games, or like blank simulator, that trend has gone.
Yeah, that's so dead.
So I don't know how this game can be successful in a 2020 game climate.
Yeah, and I mean, I see one of the debunk things he has here is Yanderedev is intentionally prolonging the game's development to make as much money as possible from Patreon. I don't think that's true. And the reason I don't think that's true isn't because I don't think that's what's happening, although I think it is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's not doing it on purpose. I would probably, I mean, he's got this long thing writing why he, doesn't think that's true, and his chief among his reasons is, I rarely mention my Patreon. I've uploaded blah, 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 and I only mention my Patreon about 3 to 4 times in total across my YouTube channel. If my intention was to milk the Patreon, wouldn't I be constantly mentioning it in my YouTube videos? Whatever, fair enough, I don't really care. Later on in that same post, he says, the game is taking a long time to develop for several reasons, and here are the 4 reasons that he has listed. One, Yandere Simulator is much more ambitious and complex than an average indie game.
Oh, I need to touch on that in a second.
Early in the game's development, I adopted an unreasonable update schedule, one major feature every 2 weeks. As a result, the game was developed under crunch time for several years straight. 15-hour workdays, no vacations, constantly sacrificing physical and psychological health, etc. This caused me to become burned out, which severely reduced my productivity, etc., etc. Then I have been mischaracterized, misportrayed, misrepresented, and character assassinated by drama YouTubers who financially benefit from producing content. Remember, this was all supposed to be a description of why Yanderedev is not intentionally prolonging the game's development to make as much money as possible from Patreon. I don't know how we've gotten over here.
Yeah.
And then the last point is, I've been harassed and abused on a daily basis for about 5 years.
Log off.
Log off. Now, I do
How are you
going to
be cyberbullied if you aren't online? Log off. Tyler, the Creator, whatever year he said that.
I want to point to a game that I think embodies what an indie developer can do, given the competence, the motivation, and the great attitude that he's had. There's a game called Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. Game came out in 2016. It is still in early access, but it's charging $20. And almost everybody I know who has a VR headset has purchased this game. And the reason why is because it's a very, very good game. He's the guy who's making it, accepts help, credits people, he's done like physics simulations for a ton of different guns. And I would assume he's something of a fan of different kinds of firearms, historical firearms, etc. And the game is basically a simulator for guns. There's no story mode. There's no.
It's just gun simulator.
It's just gun simulator, and yet the game has overwhelmingly positive reviews. And what's interesting here is every week he uploads an update to, it's a devlog of the things he's done, the changes he's made, the features that he's working on, the features that have been finished. And they're like 15 to 20 minute videos describing what he's been doing. And he has, his name's Anton Hand, by the way. That's his YouTube handle. I don't know if that's his real name, but the fact that as basically one man, with some help from others, but he's the main person behind it. He has taken an idea that he had and ran with it in a productive way, and been motivated and successful in turning just an idea, a dream, into something really tangible that people can really appreciate. That takes way more complex, is way more complex as a game. And way more complex from a technical standpoint than Yandere Simulator. And it runs much better and is a much fuller, more complete game that he keeps adding to. That's the kind of thing that someone in the games industry would like to see. Anton is not going to have a problem going to a game developer and saying, hey, here's my body of work. It's one game. I don't know, maybe he has more games. It doesn't really matter. Even if he went with just the one game, he could go, here's my body of work. Everyone loves it. You've played it. I made it. Do you want to hire me? And they can just go, yes, of course we want to hire you. We're lucky to have you apply. Yanderedev is never going to have that experience.
You mentioned something about, my train of thought just left the station, so excuse me. But a point that I want to make is that Yandere Simulator has no solid direction. There's no, plan for what's happening. Yanderedev just adds things to the game whenever he feels like it, and whatever he's like, oh, this seems like it'd be something cool. There are so many different ideas for the game that it just keeps piling on top of this spaghetti code and this big mess of a game. There's no foundation for the game. There's no solid, roadmap for how the game development is supposed to go. New players who play the game, they get in and they're like, I have no idea what to do. there's like the tutorial makes no sense. It's just a bunch of text. And then like how are you supposed to play a game where there's no direction, and how are you as the developer supposed to make a game with no direction? Of course the end goal is like implement all 10 rivals and then go for it, but like from point A to point Z, nothing. There's nothing in between.
Yeah, and I mean, it is possible to create a game where there's no direct instructions or tutorial or whatever. Minecraft.
Yeah.
There's no tutorial in Minecraft.
You just go for it. You build.
And until the game was out of beta, the game they were still adding features. They're still adding features now. And you might say like, well, when are they going to be done? Who knows when they're going to be done? Every point along the way, the game is playable. The game is functional. The game is fun. I mean, like, there's a game called Dwarf Fortress that's been coming out I don't remember exactly when Dwarf Fortress came out. Let me look that up real quick. Dwarf Fortress came out originally in 2006. Still in development today.
Yeah.
It's two dudes making the game. Two brothers, Taran Adams and Zach Adams. Those two dudes made the most obtuse, confusing game anyone has ever made. And yet, it has a rabid community, and more people are joining that community. And the reason why is because, although there's no tutorial, it's very difficult, there's no win state in the game Dwarf Fortress. Every time you start up the game, you will lose. Every single game, you will lose. It's a game about devising your own story and finding your own fun, and people do find fun because it's a functional game. These guys haven't gone out and like made this game and then shipped it and went, okay, we're done. We can go join another big developer. They could do that if they wanted to, but they didn't. And the reason they didn't is because they enjoyed this passion project, and it survives completely on donations. And because it's a passion project, they had started the game and continued to develop, and it's a masterpiece of weird gaming history. and Dwarf Fortress has inspired a lot of other games. It's another example of an indie game with an unusual path, but because the guys heading the project had a good attitude going in, they have a productive pathway forward. Yanderedev's big problem, generally speaking, is his attitude. He gets, I mean, I'm sympathetic to that. I get demotivated all the time. I'm barely motivated even to finish the sentence. Like I don't know how to live my life like a normal human being, but
you still try.
That doesn't make everybody your enemy. Lil Z.
Yes.
Oh no. Wake up.
Awake.
Oh man, just this game could have been something really fun. Like, I remember watching my friend play this all throughout high school during lunch break, and I was like, this looks fun. And I look at the same game now, and I look at the same friend who is now like, I can't play this game because the developer is a jerk and this game sucks. I'm like, this could have been so much more. This could have been something great, and now it's just a meme on the internet. It's a prime example of how not to develop a game.
Yeah.
And how not to exist on an online platform.
Lil C, do you have any questions that we might answer before we finish this up? I mean, you get why people don't like him.
on the face of it, he seems, before we even got to, like, the problems with the game, he was unlikable.
Yeah.
And in working on the game, he's unlikable. It seems like his main issue is a personality thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Somebody's taken the foundation of this game, Lovesick, and, like, has started developing it on their own, and people are like, yeah, this looks great, we love it. It's just because his name's attached to it, and they're like, ooh, stinky, we don't like this. And there's a whole bunch of issues with Yandere Simulator itself, like rapid-fire things that are wrong with the game. The school uniforms are for the wrong year. They're middle school uniforms. The NPCs have awful names. For example, one of the nurses' names, it's translated incorrectly. Her name translates to eggplant. The school doesn't look like a real school. No direction. People don't know how to work the game. A lot of little silly things that are dumb. Like, yeah, not a good game.
No,
She's not even a yandere. Her whole, like, character thing, that's not what a yandere is. I'm not a weeb, but I know that that's not what a yandere is.
Yeah, that is interesting. Like, I mean, I'm not an expert either, but I don't know what she is, but, like, she's just a stalker killer.
Yeah. Aren't yanderes supposed to be like, oh, hi, I'm all, like, sweet and cutesy and, like, quirky, but secretly I'm a terrible person?
I think it's like I'm like what you like I'm sweet, but then like I've also been obsessed with you, and I'm gonna murder.
Several times Yanderedev has been like, she is emotionless, she is a hollow shell. I'm like, okay, so already like not part of what you're trying to sell her as.
Yeah, and I think, and if you know, please, if you guys know, or leave in the comments if someone listening knows. But I believe that like Dere has something to do with like your warmth, like Tsundere is like slow, like cold then warm kind of thing.
You know who's a good example of a yandere? Monica from Doki Doki Literature Club.
Yeah, she's a perfect example of
one. Which I guess it is funny. I didn't bring it up, but while we were talking about this, I was thinking about Doki Doki Literature Club because that sort of like blew everybody away when it came up. That was like a hot ticket. But I don't like had Yanderedev or Simulator whatever come out at the same time as Doki Doki. I don't think it would have even been able to catch in like on that.
Doki Doki Literature Club would have bodied Yandere Simulator.
I mean, it basically has without even attempting to.
Every game. What are some games that have come out before Yandere Simulator? I'll go first. Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Death Stranding.
What else?
Death Stranding was announced, and we were all confused about it. Death Stranding was announced, and we were all confused about it. And then it came out. All of that life cycle has happened during the development time of Yandere Simulator.
PT was released. Silent Hills was announced. It got canceled. And then Death Stranding came around, got announced, got released. All before Yandere Simulator came out.
Well, hang on. PT's demo was in 2014. When did Yandere Simulator begin development?
2014 as well.
Okay, what time in 2014?
I have no idea. Same year. I don't know how far apart they were month-wise.
Yeah, I mean, 2014, mid-2014 is when PT came out. Then Silent Hills began development, got canceled. And after that, a year after that, Death Stranding started, was announced, and was released. Like, all of this extremely large game with very detailed models and all kinds of, famous people in it, and voice acting and gameplay. And that's another example of a person who had a vision and made it happen.
I still don't know what that game is about, but I'm like, I think it's good. I think it's a good game.
A lot of people don't think so, but I still like it.
Yeah, I guess so. Gosh, it is especially when, as someone who again does not know a lot about gaming or coding or any of that, but when you put into perspective all of these other projects that started Like, this isn't even like the tortoise and the hare anymore.
Right. No.
Like, everybody's gone home
Yeah.
and he's still trudging
Right.
along.
People have moved on to a new race.
Yeah. They've all moved on to the fishing tourney. And
Yeah.
Yonder,
The race is over. We're all doing other things
we're all
now.
giving fish to CJ.
Yeah.
So, so I guess to summarize, or the moral of the story, be nice to people and, be willing to take criticism. You can always improve. But also, I don't know, this is something that I've taken from just hearing about him, that I could be wrong. You don't need to make like every little thing perfect. Sometimes it's better to just finish it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he's like, oh, this could be a little bit better, so I'm going to spend 5 years on this aspect or not. But maybe don't do that. And, just finish. I mean, at this point, I feel like just so he could get some closure on it, he should finish and then move on to.
That's why I think
whatever.
he should just give development to somebody else. Because, like, the best thing he could do for the project and for himself would be to divorce himself from it. Because he has bad associations with it, and it has bad associations with him. So,
Just
if
do
the best thing
something
he
else.
could do is completely separate from the project and work on something else that's more within his wheelhouse, that he can now not even like pivot his reputation, basically try to build a new reputation.
Yeah,
I was looking up other games real quick. I just want to say, last point about games being developed within a reasonable amount of time. Here's a game that was the preliminary work started immediately after its prequel finished in 2008, and it was released in 2014. Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh.
Huge game. Enormous game.
Yeah.
And granted, they had a huge team working on it, right? They had a team of over 1,000 people, but it was 3 years of development time, and the preliminary work began in 2008. So obviously, we're not looking at the same scale of project, but for 3 years, 1,000 people worked and got a massive game, and Yanderedev is trying to build one building's worth of game, right? Like,
Yeah.
The game
Grand Theft
takes
Auto
place
5
in one
takes
building.
place over an entire city, which needs to be modeled, and it needs to be based on a real location, and the people need to behave realistically, and you need to have voice acting for all of them, and you need to have believable, visuals and all that stuff. He doesn't have any of those restrictions, and
It's still
took him 6
taken
years
this
to
long.
It's taken him 6 years to not do
Anything.
anything. Yeah.
We also talked about if people would ever want to work with him after this, and obviously we have no way of knowing. But I wonder if he might be better to work with if it's not his project.
Yeah, maybe.
If it's not his baby.
It's not even a baby anymore. It's like a 32-year-old who's still living in your basement who refuses to get a job and move out.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, it's kind of sad.
It's definitely a cautionary tale. I don't know what it cautions us against, really, but
Not
it's
being
there.
a jerk on the internet.
Be
And
mean.
to do your best.
Yeah, be nice, and if people are, this is the thing, if people are mean to you, the best thing you can do, especially if you're not a teenager. If you're a teenager, you can always blame being mean on the internet on you being a teenager. But any older than that, any older than, I want to say, 17, and you, although that would also be pushing it for me, but whatever, if you're mean back to the people on the internet, even in a moment of anger, that can and maybe should ruin your reputation.
Yeah.
Be nice
Because
to people.
it's not actually that, this is the thing, and this is just a You know what? I'll just save it for another time. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Well, this video's gone long enough. Very long.
So, thank you guys for explaining the magical world of Yanderedev to me.
And I'm sure we missed something.
For
Please,
sure.
If you have more context, please feel free to let us know in the comments. And also, if we got stuff wrong, also please.
Or in the Discord server, we'll bring up that old conversation and you can look through our gibberish.
Yeah, and see if we got something.
Yeah, definitely check out the link in the description to join our Discord or in the comment section because I'd love to dish it up with you guys. So remember to comment, like, and subscribe because we all need friends. Okay, bye.
Bye.